What's happening, watchers? Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to talk to you about my story and my life. My name is Seth, and I grew up as a small child with what I lovingly call severe cerebral ADHD. What that means is that my brain was very, very hyperactive, but my body wasn't. And so I sat around and thought about everything all the time. So much so it kind of alienated me from other children. And so I was the weird kid that sat around and stared at people from the trees. I watched how they worked. I learned everything about them besides who they were. I watched their body language and their movements, and I figured out a lot of things about how people interacted, and so I knew how to manipulate my own emotions and my sense of self to kind of fit in, even though I was quiet and a little weird. But it led to some side effects. So this thing about being stuck inside your head, you're thinking about very complex things. In my case, I really thought about things from the end first and then tracked my way back. And so eventually in 4th grade, I came to the place where I started thinking about reality, and I started thinking about existence. What is the end? What is the purpose? What is the meaning? And so I determined for myself in the 4th grade that God had to exist with a purpose for me and all humankind. Otherwise, everything was essentially meaningless, because one day I'm gonna die. One day everything that happened is going to end. Every person who ever knew me is going to die, and it'll all be pointless. And so I grew a connection with a God I didn't really know or understand, and I would seek him out eventually. But during this time, I looked around me and saw children who only cared about right here and right now. They only cared about today. And I was thinking about the end of my life in the 4th grade, and it was really weird for me because I couldn't understand, because I'm stuck in my head, and I think this is normal. I think, everybody is stuck in their head like this, but they're not. And so I started to get bitter, and I started to get very angry towards other children eventually, because I thought, how could they be so empty? How could they just go about their lives and not think about the consequences of the future and their actions? And so I started to hate humanity. I really started to not understand. And so for me, I thought to myself, how could I be like this? How could I be one of these things? And so I didn't realize it, but I started to hate myself as well. And it started to get really, really dark, especially when you're ADHD. You have real trouble understanding what's going on, because, especially in my case, I'm smart, and I can say that now. But back then, I had no idea that I was smart. I was making some A's, B's, C's, and it was really hard for me. Because I'm stuck in my head. You get an assignment to do homework, and it's to read like 20 pages, and my mom would send me to my room to do my homework, and it's taking me 8 hours to read 20 pages. And so the only conclusion I can come to is that I'm dumb. And so you start to become bitter, and you start to hate. And especially when you're looking at other kids that you feel like you're just as smart as or smarter than in some ways, and they can just easily do things, And I'm sure that increased my bitterness with what was going on. So over time, I even jokingly, half jokingly, really started to say things like, I'm not human. And the other kids were like, well, what are you then? And I would just say, I'm something better. And then eventually, I would cry myself to sleep some nights because I didn't have any friends or anyone to connect with. And, there were some points in my life where I felt like God was my only friend. And this was just, I was raised as a Catholic, and so these were just abstract thoughts about God. I didn't really know him. I didn't really understand him. In high school, I ended up going to the Catholic retreat. And during that retreat, I'm looking at all these other kids. So, I took religion classes seriously, catechism and all that. I took it very seriously, and so I was actually reading the Bible and trying to figure things out, and like I said, thinking from the end backwards. And so I'm thinking like, okay, if God exists and the Bible is his word, if it's his word, maybe I should figure it out. And so I'm trying to figure it out, and these other kids are just playing games. They're doing social things, and like nobody cares about God at all. And so when I go to this retreat, I'm just angry. I'm looking at these kids and thinking they don't care about anyone but themselves. And then when I get there, by the end of the first night, these kids are starting to care about each other out of nowhere. They're starting to treat each other like what I've read in the Bible, with the disciples, where they loved one another and took what they had and helped one another. And it was just so mind-boggling. I mean, I want to say the word beautiful, but it wasn't beautiful in the moment. It was heart-wrenching. I didn't understand how this could be possible. You grow up hating these kids for being so vapid, for being so selfish. And all of a sudden in this space, miraculously, their hearts are changing. And so, you have this tear within yourself where it's like, I know what reality is. I know who people are. And these kids start changing in this space that we collectively have dedicated to get closer to God, and they're changing. And I couldn't logic it out. I couldn't, my brain wouldn't compute it. I couldn't figure it out. And so by the end of that first night, I went into the chapel by myself and bawled my eyes out. And I cried out to God, and I said, I don't know what this is. I don't understand this. I don't get this. But whatever this is, whatever is happening to these children right now, I want in. If this is anything like what heaven is like, I want a piece of it. And so my heart that night broke and was recreated. All that hatred and bitterness faded away and was replaced with an unquenching hope for people, an unquenching hope for mankind, and that has remained until this day. I'm 41 now, and it's never gone away. And I had to deal with some other things, which we'll get into in a moment, but I just wanted to express how powerful that sort of supernatural movement is. So we go back to school, and these kids who changed in that weekend, most of them turned back to the ways they were, but not me. And, I'm still dealing with the anxiety and the depression, and so things get pretty dark for me in certain places. But that overarching idea of hope in people still remains. And so in the midst of my darkness, I made a coping mechanism. The way I would cope was I would communicate with other kids, and I couldn't figure out how to make myself better. I couldn't figure out how to stop my brain from being against me all the time. I couldn't figure out how to make myself happy. And so I would do everything in my power to make them happy. I would talk to these other kids and try to help them solve their problems, and that brought me joy, and it brought me peace. Until one day, I was dating one of the most popular girls in my group, and one day she just broke up with me. She handed me a letter and basically broke up with me and walked away. And because my brain is so hyperactive and hypersympathetic and hyper empathetic, I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't understand. And then, so I reached out to her. And when I reached out to her, I thought, okay, I'll get some resolution. I'll figure this out, because I was desperately trying to figure out what happened. But she wouldn't talk to me. And so I didn't know what to do with that. And when she wouldn't talk to me, I thought, okay, well, What do I do? How do I figure this out? How do I get closure? Hyperthinking. And then I reached out to my friends and said, hey, if you talk with her, could you let her know that I really just need to chat with her? I need to figure this out. And because she was the most popular girl in my friend group, they took her side and thought, Seth just can't let this go. Seth is obsessing. Seth is weird. And, obviously I probably was obsessing, and I fully admit that, my brain does that. And so that is my fault, and I take responsibility for it. But it broke me, in that moment. It broke me so badly because not only did I lose my girlfriend at the time, but I lost all my friends as well. And when I lost all my friends, or at least it felt like I lost all my friends, I didn't know what to do anymore. My brain was so good at figuring out existence and figuring out the meaning of things, that in that moment I thought, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. And so I was breaking down crying one day in my room, and my mom didn't know how to help me. And so I sought out professional help. And I found a psychologist, and in the first session, I broke down to him what happened and the circumstances surrounding it with my girlfriend and how crazy it was driving me and that I was just lost. And in like 5 minutes, he broke down her personality. He shared with me that she could not handle conflict. And so that's why she chose to just hand me a letter and walk away. That's why when I tried to communicate with her, she wouldn't do it. When potentially our friends tried to have her communicate with me, she wouldn't even consider it. And, there were various other things that helped me really solidify that she was really avoiding conflict. But it triggered something in me that, having sort of view of universal truth and figuring out the nature of reality is a lot easier than figuring out people and figuring out their desires and wants and ways. And so it's really crazy how people work, but I became a little obsessed. And so I started trying to help people more, especially after that. So from that day on, it really kind of progressed, and the depression and the anxiety remained. And one day in class, a great friend of mine was sitting in front of me, and she turned around and saw how sad I looked, and she was asking me about it. And when I told her how I felt, when I told her how depressed I was and everything that was going on, she jokingly turned around and was like, well, why don't you just stop? And something snapped inside my brain in that moment. And I thought about all the anxiety and the depression, and that my brain was just doing these things to me all the time. And I hated it. And I didn't understand why my brain could just betray me like this. Like there's something else that's not my brain. This reality just snapped because I thought, if I hate it, but my brain is doing it to me, and I've known this all these years, then obviously I am something else. I am the thing observing my brain and its reactions. And I thought, yeah, if I don't want this, then obviously I don't have to live this way. There's something not wrong with me because I'm the one hating it. I'm the one not desiring it. So it's my brain. And after that moment, I went to my psychologist and I talked to him about getting on some medications. And that really helped me through a good portion of it. That helped me really stabilize and start to figure things out. It didn't fix everything because obviously medication doesn't fix a psychological issue. It may help and or fix a neurological issue, something going on with your brain or your chemicals or whatever, but it didn't help any of the psychology. So all the things I felt about who I am and myself didn't change. And so it wasn't until college, really, I moved to Arizona. And when I did that, I literally lost all my friends again. Except this time I had a plan in place. And I really started studying and deep diving into reality and conspiracy theories and theology and God and everything. And over time, I started to realize all the things in the Bible that people don't talk about or get wrong or misunderstand or don't even think about God's perspective or these people's perspective, right? They think about black and white. What does it say? Good, bad, yes, no. But what are these people going through? What is God going through? And while I was doing that, I came across all these prophecies and started studying science and archaeology and all these things and started to realize, man, like this book collection, these things that were written down thousands and thousands of years ago, like we have to understand that the Septuagint, which is the Greek version of the Torah in the Old Testament, they were translated into Greek 300 years before Jesus was even born. And these prophecies were established well before that. And so we're talking about a communication device from outside of time and space. And that's what happened. The Bible proved itself to me to be a communication device from outside of time and space. And the entire point of the God of the Bible is to make himself known to humanity and communicate these truths. And so that's what really hit me. And so that's what I consider my foundation for truth now. And you don't have to agree with it, and I'm not asking you to. Your will is your own. And who am I or anyone else to try and take it away from you? Because that's one of the core principles, even in the Bible, is that the God of the Bible never seeks to take away the free will of humanity, even though what he considers a lot of the things we do as evil. He doesn't stop it. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't consequences for evil, consequences for our actions, both good and bad. But your will is the most important. And so I didn't really understand that in the beginning. I thought I had to beat God into people's heads. I had to beat them into submission so I could save them from hell, instead of actually caring about them at all or what they're going through. And I started to really realize that when I met a couple of friends of mine who helped run a homeless shelter. They lived just behind the homeless shelter, and they opened up their home to the homeless. They housed people inside their own home. And I thought, man, one day when I'm old enough and set up, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the things that, the disciples did and allow people to live in my home. And I was later on going to work and living my life, and I'm praying one day, and all of a sudden I get hit with this, it's like a thought or a voice or both outside of myself, and it just says, go look for a house. And I thought, I'm not ready. I don't have all the money. I don't know what I'm doing. But it was there. Go look for a house. And so I didn't know what to do, but I told my parents about it. And they said, well, we'll just go look. What's the harm in looking? And it just so happened to be around the same time my dad was retiring, and he took the lump sum, and in January of 2015, we bought a house. My dad gave me the money, and we bought the house, and I opened up transitional housing for the homeless. Friends of mine who were connected, and pastors and all around were giving me suggestions, and people who were ready to move forward. Because that's really the problem with homelessness. It's not about them being on the street or them not having jobs for the most part. It's that they really don't know how to be a functioning human being in society for the most part. And so transitional housing can help them figure out what it is to be a human being again. Help reparent them in a lot of cases. It ends up being what I do most of all. I help people reparent themselves and reestablish and remap out their entire view of what reality is and what society is and what love is and what family is. And so I did that with my own money and with the help of an older couple who used to be homeless and then were about to become homeless again right at the same time I was buying the house. And so I kind of invited them in as my trustees to help me run the house, because literally I was doing this on my own with no experience. I had the help from my dad to buy the house, but everything else was on me. And so they helped me figure out that, a lot of the people who are homeless know how to move in the system. So, they would get their own food stamps and help around the house. As they got jobs, we would work together to come up with a plan for how much they would contribute to the house, from their job and their pay. During that time, we also created a thing called family meetings. We would have trouble in the house. Obviously, you have people who are not used to living with anyone, even on their own because they don't have homes, and trying to put them into a space with other people who are just as damaged and struggling. And so we had to sit down together and we had to figure it out. Even me, because this is my life. I work outside of that, and my job is the only thing supporting this entire endeavor. And so we had to figure it out. And over time, through those group meetings and individual counseling sessions, it's been almost 11 years now of working with people, but we went 3.5 years of running like that. And in that 3.5 years, I only lost like $2,000 from my savings. And that was about it. And for those of you who may know or contribute to endeavors to help the homeless, people have wasted millions of dollars trying to help the homeless people. It's insane. It really is. Because I did it with almost nothing and turned some people's lives around in 3.5 years. I just want you guys to know that as difficult as you may think it is to actually turn people's lives around or be of use, the thing is that these people, they don't need money. They don't need money as much as you think they do. They need you. They need your time. They need your love. They need to understand what love is. They need to know what compassion is. And so if you really want to give to people who are doing that. Or do it yourself. The house ran for about 3.5 years, and it didn't stop because my passion fell off. It didn't stop because we were not successful. What happened was I looked back at my friends who inspired me, and I saw them living with the homeless, and their children who live there as well are some of the most beautiful people I know. And I thought to myself, man, you would hope that your love and your compassion and your strength and your stability would rub off on a lot of these folks, but I worried that a lot of the people that I invite into my home would influence my future children. And so 3 years in, my wife came into the picture. She wasn't my wife yet, but she was just as dedicated, and she gave her life to help. Not only help me, but help the other people in the house. We not only had the family meetings, but we also had game nights and we had Bible studies. And my wife originally started coming to the Bible studies. And we got to know each other over a year's time. And it's kind of a miraculous story in and of itself. Probably for another time. It's probably longer than the story I'm about to tell. But, during that time while we were dating, I kept trying to interview people. They would be sent over to me by friends, family, pastors, and so on. And I would do the first interview, and then after the first interview, they would never show up. It was on the third or fourth one, a pastor friend of mine came to me, had this guy, and he was like, hey, I have this guy, he's fresh out of rehab, and I was wondering if you could house him. And I was like, absolutely. And then I paused. And I thought, you know what? I have been interviewing people, and they're not working out, and I don't know what's going on. Let me pray about it. And so I went home, and I prayed about it, and I got the message back, how many times do I have to stop these interviews from happening to let you know we're doing something different? And so it would happen that during that time, when God told me that we were going to be doing something different, that I started thinking about everybody who was in the house and thought about if I was failing them or not. Some of them had been there for quite a long time and they weren't moving out, they weren't progressing. And so I thought to myself, okay, we have to change something. And so I went to each of them and I said, hey, you guys come up with a date and you tell me when long is too long. You know, when do you need to move out? Like, when do I need to kick you out? You know, this is not me telling you I'm kicking you out, but this is you telling me to kick you out. And they all miraculously gave me around the same date. Like, it was kind of crazy. And by the end of it, they were all out before time, before that date, except for one. I did have to kick one of them out, but you know, they were all out. And so I have this empty house, and my future wife and I started getting really close and ended up marrying like 6 months later. And it's been almost 7 years now, and she is the most amazing woman I've ever met. And she has taken and helped me build something more powerful than I ever had before. And so even though we don't permanently house people, every week we still do counseling sessions, you know, all the time for anyone who wants. We have Bible studies every weekend, and we are turning people's lives around. We have friends who've been saved from drug addiction and spousal abuse and all the rest of it. And it's been so miraculous that I can't even fathom, you know, how far I would have come without her. And, you know, I have seen miracles during that time. I'll give you guys one story. During my 3.5 years in the house, there were a lot of people that came through, but there was a particular couple that stayed with me. And the husband and wife eventually, while they were there, turned their lives around to God. After a lot of disagreements and arguments with me by the husband. And he ended up proving himself, because I wouldn't argue with him. That's not who I am. I'm not trying to fuss at people and try to get them to believe what I believe. But he got so angry that he went and picked up a Bible and went through the scriptures to try and prove me wrong, and ended up turning his life around. And while they were there, after they had turned their lives over to God, I got a feeling from God that I needed to pray over everyone in the house. And, you know, so I sat everybody down in the family meeting, and I was telling them that God really wanted me to pray over them. And so I didn't know all that was going on, and, you know, I didn't know the fullness of what anything meant. But, you know, I just knew there were some struggles in the house, but other than that, you know, I didn't know too many specifics. The husband's back was hurting him, the wife was sick, and there's an older lady who was staying with us. She was battling depression and anxiety and stuff. And so the next morning, I wake up, and the husband walks up to me, and he was like, Seth, I need to tell you something. And I was like, what? And he was like, you know, I went out to the shed to grab something, and I hit my head on the door frame of the shed. And I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, you know, I'm sorry about that. You know, like that sucks, you know. And, you know, I'm just kind of like I'm not sure why you're telling me this, you know. And he said, Seth, you don't understand. Yesterday, I wasn't tall enough to hit my head on that door frame. I have been in pain with my back for years now. I fell off a horse when I was little, and so my back always acts up and I'm always a little hunched over, and I woke up this morning and I wasn't. And come to find out, he ends up going to the hospital, not the hospital, but the doctor, and the doctor does an x-ray, and his back is fine. You know, the injury from the horse is gone. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is insane. And then, you know, I talked to the older lady who was in the house, and she's saying like, you know, I was having nightmares and so much anxiety I couldn't sleep. And it's gone. Like, I'm not seeing visions at night and all kinds of things that were going on. They're healed. And I'm like, you know, this is so nuts. I don't understand what to do. And then, I'm sitting there talking with the wife, and she's upset, and she's sitting there saying to herself, you know, like, everybody's getting healed and God's forgotten me. I don't understand. And I'm like, I don't have an answer for you. I can't, this isn't me. God told me to do a thing. I did a thing. And come to find out, the reason why she was so sick is because she's pregnant. And at first you might think, oh, praise God, she's pregnant, that's a beautiful thing. But like, they've been married for 5+ years. She wasn't able to get pregnant. I mean, so much so that she told me when she was a child, she was supposed to have all of her stuff removed because of some complication. And just before the surgery, her insurance ran out. And so when her insurance ran out, they canceled the surgery because they couldn't afford it. And so not only was she protected miraculously back then, but then when her and her husband turned their lives over to God in my house, and then God asked me to pray for them, she's pregnant. Her husband's back is healed. And this older woman, her life has changed. And so I have seen things that I can't explain. Things so powerful, they are undeniable, even though at times I don't even believe it myself. And so it's for reasons like that, along with logic and science and all the other things that, the God of the Bible has proved himself to me time and time again. And so it's with that things like this over the years, I have continued to bless people, continued to open up my house. Ever since I got married, it's been a worry about children and things that I don't want my kids to be influenced and turn badly, because I want my kids to be able to be strong and help people their whole lives. And, we've been married almost 7 years and still haven't been able to have kids. And there have been some miraculous things that make me believe that we one day will become pregnant, but we're still waiting on that. But it wasn't until tragedy struck my family. Some terrible things happened, and my parents, at the age of 69, divorced. And I was put in the middle of it in a very significant way. And it wasn't except for the fact that I had had all this training that I was able to be there for my whole family and counsel them all and seek to help them out, that I started to realize I was stronger than I thought. And God had created me into something more powerful than I thought. So much so that I started to rethink why I was doing the things I was doing. You know, the job I do. You know, and by job I don't mean like the housing stuff. I mean like my regular work. I felt like it doesn't help people. It doesn't do my passion. I started to rethink, like, am I wasting my time doing things that are not helping people? I want to do what I love to do all the time. And so I decided to shift. I decided to make a decision to create this channel to help people. And I plan on getting my life coach license pretty soon and make myself available to change people's lives and teach them a lot of the lessons that I learned along the way. With all my research I've done for 10 plus years, I want to be able to change people's lives, and it doesn't matter to me if this channel does well. If I have a private practice where I can help one person at a time, that's enough. But if I can bless some of you, if I can be there for you in any way, that would mean the world to me. It would mean the world to me that your life could get a little bit better because of some of the pain and suffering I went through. Some of the terrible things that I had to endure. And I know all of you have gone through terrible things as well. And, I haven't mentioned almost any of the things I've had to survive. You see, I fully understand how hard it can be. I have had this hatred for myself and my struggles and my brain for a very, very long time. And I had to figure that out. And I had to figure out why I was important and what I was worth. So much so that, when I talked about me thinking from the end to the beginning, I started thinking about, I hate myself. Well, I didn't even create myself. If God created me, I'm here because He put me here. And so it got so bad I even started to hate God for creating me. The depths of despair and the depths of frailness I had inside of me, I didn't even realize. But then over time, through prayer and tearing my heart out, God showed me what I was worth. He showed me what I was good at. He showed me what my brain was good for. And so if any of these words affect you, if any of the things I'm saying actually help you out, it's because I was built for this. I was built to try and help. I was built to try and figure things out so you don't have to. And it's my passion, and it's my joy, and it's my life. So I hope beyond everything that you get something out of this. I hope that my channel is of use to you. And so if it is, stick around. I am here to help. And whatever step you need to take, whatever little piece of encouragement you can take from me, understand that no step is too small. It's not about theology. It's not about God. It's not about black, white. It's not about commandments. It's not about society. It's not about everyone else. It's about what works. That's what I'm about. You want to be somewhere. You want to be a better person. You want to be happier. You want to feel like your life is worth something. That's what I'm here for. And whatever small step, no matter how pathetic you think it is, if it works, it works. Move forward. Because I'm not here to sell you Jesus. I'm here to help. And so that's why we strengthen ourselves to help those we love. Because they are counting on you. They do need you. They do desire you. They do love you. And that's never going to go away. Even if you do. That desire for you, that love for you, it's never going to stop. And so I need you to live. I need you to be better. I need you to understand how important you are and how amazing you are and how much you are desired and loved. There is someone out there who needs you. And so if you stick around, I'm sure I'll help you at some point. And I'll be here for you. Because that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. So welcome to the channel. So that's it, watchers. That's my story. I hope it's inspired you or helped you in some way. You know, if it did, go ahead and hit the like button. It really helps me out because I'm just starting out. And if you guys have stories you want to share about how your life was changed in some way or someone who inspired you to change, please, talk about it below. I love to hear your stories. I love to understand people and talk about life and just figuring people out. And if you believe in what I'm doing and you like the videos I've put out so far, please subscribe. Here on YouTube, it takes 1,000 subscribers to finally get monetized, and I'm trying to do this, and I'm trying to change my life over and change the world one person at a time and, do the good work and all the jazz. And so I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and welcome to the channel.